Hi, this is Stephen Beschloss with America, America.
And I'm Mark Jacob with the Stop the Presses newsletter.
And this is On Target. Today we're going to talk about, in essence, the further capitulation of the legacy media to Donald Trump. CNN and Washington Post in particular, this in the wake of Trump's disgraceful demolition of the East Wing of the White House, ostensibly to make way for his Mar-a-Lago style ballroom. This week, we had CNN's chief, Mark Thompson, who went to the White House reportedly to sell the regime on White House officials appearing on its new streaming service, as well as to lobby for a Jake Tapper interview with Donald Trump. But the next day, and there's already issues there, but the next day, according to the media publication Status, Thompson told CNN staffers that they should ease up on covering the White House demolition, specifically the East Wing. Um, they're not the only ones. The Washington Post editorial board wrote an op-ed called "In Defense of the White House Ballroom," arguing why the ballroom is needed and soft pedaling the East Wing destruction by giving examples of previous White House changes and the problem with government bureaucracy that makes quote unquote renovations so difficult. I mean, the end of their piece, Mark, went so far as to say that the White House cannot simply be a museum to the past. So much for respecting the history and memories of the People's House.
Yeah, did that Washington Post editorial. I mean, if you weren't convinced already that the Washington Post has gone to the dark side, that editorial would convince you. And let's remember that Jeff Bezos is donating to the ballroom. So the guy who owns the Washington Post is helping pay for this. And it was just the most cynical, terrible editorial. Stephen, it said preservationists express horror that Trump did not submit his plans to their scrutiny. But the truth is that this project would not have gotten done, certainly not during his term, if the president had gone through the traditional review process. So, in other words, let's just blow through all the rules and standards we have because the president's got to get something done. That's the kind of attitude that gets us into wars. Just the idea that, well, we can't follow normal procedure. We just got to let the president do whatever he wants to do. That's how dictatorships get made.
Yeah, well, look, if we're focusing on, Jeff Bezos and all of the other billionaires and billion dollar corporations that have funded the ballroom, I think we're going to see again and again that $300 million is at the final number, 350 is at the final number.
Yeah,
We don't know what the number is, and how
yeah,
much is actually going to be used to build a ballroom.
right.
How much of it is going to be going elsewhere. So I think we should be expecting that the news media is actually trying to figure out where this money is going and how it actually is going to be used by these people. And instead we have two organizations who seem to be more concerned about softening their approach to the regime and trying to make sure that they can maintain their access.
Right. And you have the really scary thing is these big corporations that own news outfits. We've talked about this before, the kind of the corporate media problem, another contributor to this ballroom is Comcast, which owns NBC News. So you have these people reporting on this and they are contributing to the very thing that they're reporting on. There's no way that they can maintain any kind of objectivity. I mean, some journalists in their organization can try, but they're conflicted. The company is conflicted. And then you also, Stephen, have Fox News was very interesting on this subject. Because they knew that it didn't play with regular people. They knew that normal people would say let's remember Trump lied about this. Trump said he
Yeah.
wasn't going to touch it.
Oh yeah, he
And
he
then,
loves it. He wants to keep it.
yeah, he's one of his favorite things and all this stuff. So he lied his ass off, and then he bulldozes the damn thing, and then so regular people are going to be outraged by this, and regular people kind of love old buildings, especially that are symbolic of the country. And so I think Fox knew it wasn't going to play with regular people. So what did Fox do? Ignored the story. I mean,
Right.
they mostly, it's one of those things. It's always true that the more you watch Fox, the less you know. I mean, it is a, I mean, it's a supplier of ignorance to the American people. And Fox couldn't even sell it, I don't think, so they just ignored it.
So where does it go after that? I mean, the demolition of the East Wing is an affront to democracy. The news organizations that care more about their access than addressing the
Right.
dangers of a authoritarian regime, is growing worse. You've got a dictatorial ruler who thinks he can do whatever he wants. So what's next? They make excuses if he tears down the rest of the White House. Do they just sort of stand by and wave when he deploys the military in more democratic led American cities? I mean, I think again we're in this point where we have to say, without being just self-serving about your publication or my publication, we need strong voices in independent media. We need
Right.
people speaking out, saying vividly what's happening, fearlessly, honestly, explaining what's happening as clearly as they can. We need a media literate public that looks at the coverage and asks themselves, am I getting the truth here or am I not?
Right.
And look, we have to count on the mobilization of Americans who say that I have to speak out, and this is a direction I don't want, and I'm going to do what I can every single day to resist the downward spiral of the Trump regime.
Right. And just because you watched CNN 15 years ago doesn't mean that you have to watch it today. I mean, news organizations change. And CBS News, for example, I think, they are completely compromised now. I don't view them as a legitimate news organization anymore. Sorry, Walter Cronkite. But I didn't do it to Walter Cronkite. They did.
Yeah,
And so,
they're the ones who hired Barry Weiss from the Free
right,
Press, and
right. And
who already seem
have a
to be
minder.
discouraging people
Right.
from legitimate coverage.
Right, and also paying Trump money for extortion money.
Yeah,
I mean, they're just not legitimate anymore, and so it's really important for people, for news consumers, to look at what they're consuming and whether it's legitimate or not, and to strike them from their diet. I mean, I don't read the Washington Post anymore except to criticize it as a media critic. I don't read it for information because I just don't think it's legitimate anymore. Same
yeah,
thing with CBS News, and I'm sorry to say that we
yeah.
need more news outlets, not fewer. But people need to wake up. I mean, I gave money to the Guardian just recently, and and after canceling the Washington Post. I think that was a good move. I think that was a move that encouraged legitimate news and punished illegitimate news.
So look, I mean, people need to find information. They need to get news where they can. I don't condemn somebody who still will look at the Washington Post at a news story and try to decipher what they can from that to understand it. But I think what we're at the very least saying is, please check multiple sources.
Right.
Please don't rely on a few of these outlets and assume that they're reliable. Assume that they're going to credibly give you the truth of these stories. So this is where we are, and that just puts a lot of pressure, I think, on all of us to step up in the ways that we can, and to be skeptical when we need to, and to hold on to our sort of sense of possibility that that our capacity collectively exceeds the tyranny of the regime.
Yeah, that is a good way of summing it up. Stephen, I'll talk to you next time.
See you next time.